What's going on, everybody? How you doing? Hey, got Anthony in the house. What is happening? We got Maddie. We got Lockin. Um, Supposed to have Tommie the card carver. Not exactly sure what happened. Hopefully he is running late. I had questions and everything already for him, so those will have to wait. So SEC, SEC, SEC. So were you second? No, you're not second. How about Colorado? I'm sorry, Oakland taking out Kentucky. I mean, I shouldn't be saying that. You know, what's happening, Tommy? I really shouldn't be saying that. Calipari, fellow Paisan, I should want him to do well. But I'm not a big fan of Kentucky, so excuse me from that standpoint. So a lot of big, football news has gone on, over here the last, bunch. I mean, you know, let's see. The Jets signed Mike Williams. He was supposed to have he was supposed to go to Pittsburgh, but the Jets made sure they didn't leave the building. Now, Tommy, how you doing? Brandon, how you doing? Still at work? All right, buddy. I hope work goes well. I just saw what they want reporting that Brandon Ayuk is getting traded to the Steelers. So that should make Anthony happy. Well, and I mean, that is because you guys took Broderick Jones. You jumped ahead of us. Well, actually, that was Bill Belichick's final to the Jets, but we got the last laugh by beating him in his last coaching game. Chiefs all but wrapped up the three-peat. Why would you say that? Yeah. Steelers making trades, signing free agents. What are they doing, Anthony? Are they turning over a new leaf there in Pittsburgh? What the heck is going on? But yeah, so it's very, 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 very interesting. Got that. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. I don't, I'm curious. Um, you know, is it going to be an open competition? Um, are they going to give it to Russell? But you think about it, you know, they let Mason Rudolph, they ship out Kenny Pinkett. They basically get Russell Wilson, potential, Hall of Famer. Don't know if he will be, but a potential. And they get, a former, what was he, number 3 overall pick. And in reality, it costs them is like $1.2 million and a 6th round draft pick. You gotta be impressive with that. You gotta be impressed with that. Good job. I was surprised they let what's his name, Johnson go, but I guess if you're gonna bring in Brandon Ayuk, that's not a bad fallback plan, you know. I would not disagree with that. I would say that Pickett Fields is better than Pickett, and I think that's from that standpoint, I think that's good. As always, let's go Mets, baby. So, we got that, got that stuff going on there in football. So a lot of bunch of moves, Kirk Cousins, going to coming to Atlanta. Didn't see that one coming. Will Diggs stay in Buffalo? What's going to happen with Dak? A lot of free agent moves, Saquon and Swift going to what do you call it? Swift going to Chicago. So it's a lot of football moves, a lot of football moves. Nice to see that the Patriots are making like absolutely none. So that's a good thing. Let them go ahead and just puke all over themselves. Frank, how you doing, buddy? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Go Vikings. They got Sam Darnold and Aaron Jones as their new backfield. You got Derrick Henry going to the Derrick Henry went to drawing a blank. Ravens. That's what I heard. Derrick Henry to the Ravens. So I mean, it's pretty interesting to see what's gonna happen. A lot of stuff going on, a lot of moves being made. Eh? He could be, he could be. Both of them are bums, right, Frank? They're bums. No, I don't. I tell you, I, Aaron Jones. I mean, Aaron Jones. I mean, mean, I'm okay with that, but I don't. The Sam Darnold. It makes you believe that they're going to go for a quarterback. There were some people saying that they are going to um, try and trade up, maybe with Atlanta. Being that Atlanta does not need a quarterback now, maybe Atlanta might be willing to, get rid of that pick. See if they could, see if they could, what do you call it? Grab a quarterback in the first round. Minnesota. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what they try and do there. The draft in a couple weeks. Well, a couple weeks. The draft in a month or so is going to be very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. So, we'll see what happens from that standpoint. Um, all right, you got it, Frankie. So we got that, and then we have the tournament going on. Kentucky goes home. They lose by 4 to Oakland. Um, not really any other kind of big, upsets or anything. Um, I guess. Well, I mean, you had Oregon beat South Carolina. It's true, a whole new set. You know, Michigan State beating Mississippi, but that's a 9 beating, so that's not that big of a deal. So nothing too big right now. So they got that everything. But come on, man. What do you guys think about this whole Brandon? I'm not gonna lie. I hope UNC somehow loses, even though I know they won't. But it wouldn't bother me. Um, they did say with Oakland beating Kentucky, there's only 3% of all the brackets on ESPN now have a chance at a perfect have still have a perfect bracket. Only 3% out of all of them. So that's a little on the crazy side. But folks, but ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen, lady, what about the whole Shohei Ohtani stuff? Ohtani banned from baseball for gambling. That's going to be that is going to be that's going to be very very interesting. Um, the story changed from everything that's been reported. That at first the story that the interpreter said was that he went to Shohei and Shohei paid him, and they have an investigative reporter who actually saw Shohei's information on two $500,000 wire transfers. Um, Even if he's guilty, they would make it go away. I think I, I don't know. It's gonna be tough. That's a tough one. I honestly don't know. I don't know how to feel about this. Um, this is a very very big stain. I tell you, I think they're lucky they were in South Korea when this broke, or I wonder if they made sure that it broke while in South Korea because they know it's going to take a little bit for them to get back here to the States. Just listening to some. Hey, Victor, how you doing, buddy? Wasn't his trainer, it wasn't his interpreter. And now here's the funny thing. I'm not saying, and so when you look at the reports, innocent until proven guilty. Um, when you look at the reports, the first report was that the interpreter actually said that he went to Shohei and asked him to help him, and Shohei said okay, and Shohei started wiring the money to the bookie. Um, then 24 hours later, he says, nope, Shohei didn't know anything or anything like that. Yet, even though they said that they saw his name on the wire transfers. Now, how, if this guy's an interpreter, now people are saying, well, he was a little bit more than an interpreter. He was a confidant. So the thing is how though would that guy have access to a Shohei Ohtani account that has that kind of money in it that he could wire the transfers? It was his money. Yeah. His name is Don Tani. If he gets off of it, yeah, he'll be the new Don. Intriguing is what I was going to say. I'm hooked. Want to hear more about it? Yeah. I I don't know. This is very very interesting. Like I said, to me, you know, again, did it break now while they were over in South Korea? Were they kind of holding it? And the weird part is they're saying now that there was a team meeting, the whole team was there, and the interpreter stood up and apologized to the team. So I don't get this. I do not get this. What's up, Craig? I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if he was a gambling buddy. Shohei doesn't speak enough English, right? He doesn't speak a lot of English, so unfortunately, he can go ahead and kind of throw that one out there. Oh, well, I didn't know. When they would tell me what was going on, I didn't know what that meant, right? So it's crazy that he kind of can do that type of crap. But I just don't understand. The whole thing is fishy. Like they were reporting on an ESPN investigative reporter was talking about it today. I was watching on on First Take, and she said that the interpreter gave her a 90-minute interview. So they met for an hour and a half, and he showed the wiretaps, the wire transfers that were made. He said the story was that he had the problem, and he went to Shohei and asked Shohei for some help. And Shohei said, "No problem. I will go ahead and give you $4.5 million." I mean, that's a good chunk of change. And then 24 hours later, he goes ahead and changes the story and everything. Ladies and gentlemen, he is here.
Hey, speaking of 4 hours later, here
It
I am.
is wow. It is Tommie the card carver. What's happening, Tommie?
What's up, man?
How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I was just working on I was just cutting up cards and
Well,
picked
that
up.
is what you do.
Yeah, honestly, I lost track of time and I picked up my phone and I said, "Oh no."
No worries. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, everybody. So I want to welcome, this is Tommie the card carver. I met him in Atlanta at the Atlanta Card Show, and was very intrigued by what he is doing in the hobby. And so, Tommie, go ahead and just introduce yourself, and then we will get into chatting, man.
Yeah. So I am the card carver. A lot of people in the hobby, people that know me, just call me Carver or call me Tom. You can find me across all social medias, and my website is the Card Carver, and everything is just at the Card Carver to keep it simple. Um, what's not so simple is explaining just what I do because I do a lot of different things. But I do cut up cards and make one of one art cards. I also design stuff digital, and as of late, I've been acting as a creative consultant for companies like Cards and Coffee, and I work with a lot of different brands.
And you do apparel stuff too, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. I just recently did some stuff with Cards and Coffee. Well, I should say they just recently released some stuff that I designed. Um, we actually did the work like a year ago. I probably did like 4 or 5 different logos for them.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Very cool. So obviously, so you start. You obviously, well, I guess did were art and the hobby kind of like um going on at the same time for you? Like, were you doing stuff with the hobby, and then were you also doing different types of art stuff, or did they kind of at some point in time were you into the hobby? You really liked art, and you said, "Hey, let me see if I can put these two together."
so as a kid, I was always doing art, um, and then as like a young adult, I guess people, my friends, would just start coming to me for logos and things like that. Creating logos for bands, for businesses. I had my own bands that I was in where I would be designing the flyers and things. That was another thing I would do, design flyers for parties and club nights and stuff too. So all through the years, I was always kind of dabbling in that stuff. I collected as a kid. As a teenager, by the end of high school, I didn't really collect much, and what really got me back into collecting and into the hobby was when my oldest son, I have 3 kids, and my oldest, when he started playing baseball, playing t-ball, I started buying him cards. And it
Nice.
just yeah, and it coincided, luckily for me, as a lifelong Cubs fan. It was around 2015, I think. um, so it was kind of a perfect storm because here I am getting back into the hobby. My oldest child's just starting to really play baseball, and my favorite team was just starting to look really exciting. So,
Yeah, we
uh,
got Matty Ice in the chat. He's yeah, there he was. I was waiting for it. I knew that was gonna happen.
Nice. Go Cubs.
I know
Go.
you
Yeah.
grew up north of Chicago.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. About 50 miles north. I don't know if it's that far. It's 40, 50 miles in the
Yeah.
suburbs.
I
Uh,
know now you're in Maine.
yeah, I've been in Maine a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
So go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say my whole childhood was out there. The 80s and 90s, the Bulls, Bears, all of it.
I as a New York Knicks fan, I hated those Bulls.
I bet you did. I, I always disliked the Knicks, but I had like a really fond respect of them.
Yeah.
And when Mike left, I mean, how it was so hard not to like those rough teams of Anthony Mason and Charles Oakley and Star,
Yeah.
all those guys. Great, great basketball team.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Hey, Kenneth, how you doing? Corey, how you doing? Yeah, Maddie grew up in Central Indiana, so there's
Yep.
not much to do there. So everybody had to be a Cubs fan.
Yeah. So I got into doing the art because I was just on Instagram and randomly just looking at cards and stuff and came across some guys that were doing card art. They were doing what I do. And I observed for a while and then I just, I started doing it. I felt like it was something I would be good at. And luckily it was received really well right away. And I haven't really stopped much since.
No, and I mean, that was what I was amazed of. So, like one of the things was at this last event, the one in Atlanta, Culture Collision, you know, you had the I mean, what would you call it? Was it the card of the convention or the convention? Like, what did they? I'm
Yeah.
trying to. What was it like? What was it called? I just want to call it the right thing.
Yeah, well, so we had three different cards. Technically, I guess they're being viewed as promo cards. One card was the official trading card of Culture
I don't know
Collision.
why I couldn't think of that,
It's
but
all
yeah,
good. Yeah, so that one we sold, and then I had two other cards that I designed that Culture Collision decided. Well, we decided together that we would print them up and we would just do them as giveaways. So there's three different trading cards. There's 100 of each, and once they were gone, they were gone. CGC was the official grader of Culture Collision 4, and I got them to agree to grade the cards, which, as far as I know, is a bit of a first for card art. Um, having something designed by a guy like me.
and
Yeah, there
that's
you
it
go.
there, right?
Yep.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, that one sold on eBay for $200.
yeah.
Somebody graded that, and it got. I don't think you'll see many tens. I was looking; not very many people submitted them either. Hopefully, more people will start to submit them. I'm not
Yeah.
sure how much everybody really knew that was a thing or not. Um, and I was talking to a collector of mine who's also now a friend and just an incredible artist as well, which I didn't know in the beginning. Um, and he's the one that bought that card off eBay, which I just thought was funny.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah,
Very cool.
Stacy Wall is his name. He's an incredible painter, such a great artist.
So, does a card have to have certain characteristics behind it for you to consider
It
using it?
helps. It helps. The border is really clutch. Like this one here is pretty straightforward. I actually did sometimes like the top right hand corner of the card in that photo. I could have done a better job on the curve there. Um, you know, you can't. I have to remind myself from time to time that it is art.
Yeah,
I strive for perfection, and I think that it's hard not to, especially in a time where the card market is the way it is, and everybody wants a PSA 10,
right.
SGC 10. Everything has to be perfect, and so you try to do that, but like you know, you're doing it by hand, and sometimes it's just not going to be exactly how you want it. So um,
Yeah, so you can
it
see though,
happens.
there's just now grading. Um, did you have to go to the companies and explain to them what you do, or could somebody just send it in and and go from there.
So with CGC, I have not established whether or not people can send other people besides myself can send them in to get authenticated. It's something that I've worked out with them, where I've had a relationship ish, like known some of the people that work there for some time now. Um, so I had some rapport. Beckett was the first company to do it. So, it's kind of like once the door was open a little bit, it makes it easier. Because, like you were saying, trying to explain yourself, anybody can send in a card of mine that's signed to Beckett and they'll authenticate it. So they'll
Right.
authenticate anything with my signature at this point. So that's how Beckett does it, based off of my autograph. And CGC, same thing. Beckett was, going to shows, making friends, building rapport, and then having someone say, "Oh yeah, I have a friend. I'll introduce you." And then from there, it sounds so simple. Like, yeah, I got introduced to somebody at Beckett, but
Right.
it's not that simple.
Right.
I had to try and try, just email, and not really so much like having to like bang on the door, but just sending email after email, like periodically, like, hey, just reminding you I'm here, you know, wanting to have this conversation. And eventually I got the conversation, which then leads to, okay, I like what I hear. Now I'm going to have you talk to these people. And it's another meeting, but this time with like five more people in the room, or in the Zoom call rather, you know, and I'm once again having to explain myself
Right.
and, show them what I'm doing and where the value is and why it should be authenticated.
Yeah. I've got Matty Ice looking for Sandbergs.
Sandbergs.
Ryan Sandberg. He's a big Sandberg guy.
I was just back in Illinois a few weeks ago, and my buddy had his old card collection, and there wasn't anything really with like monetary value, but there was a card that was a Chicago area release with Sandberg on it that I wound up keeping, that has a Venture on the back, which was a old department store in
Oh wow.
Illinois. And it also had some hot dog place, had like advertisements on the back. It's a really cool card. Got to be
That's
mid
cool.
80s.
Very cool. Very cool. And so I mean, and and you have here, you do wrestling. Um,
Yeah,
you do wrestling cards and everything. How do you so one of the things that I was curious about was um so you pick a card for whatever reason it may be, right? Well, we know however you go through that, right? You pick a card, but then how do you how do you look at that card and then start to piece it together? Like this one with Bret the Hitman Hart, and you throw the General Lee, you throw Alf, you throw Back to the Future, Mr. T. Like what do you use? Because you're combining whether it be baseball, football, basketball, sports entertainment and pop culture together. So do you try and do like time frame type stuff?
I do. I mean, I am an 80s and 90s kid, so that's really my jam. I have the most fun when I'm just creating things that are fun to me and just making stuff like for me and what I want to see. With that type of card, like the Bret Hart that you were showing,
Yep.
um, I'll take, so that card's like a mid, that's like 80. Actually, that might be like 86 or something like that. 87. I'm not sure. I forget. Um, but the idea is I start pulling out, I've got binders just full of non-sports stuff, sports and non-sports. I keep them separated. So I'll pull out this big binder, and then I've got boxes that I'll start go digging through too. And I will go looking for 80s stuff specifically. And with like that Bret Hart card with the colors in the card, you know, I'll often try to find things that kind of color match, like it has the red and the yellow. So the Pac-Man was kind of when I saw the red and the yellow and Pac-Man, I'm like, oh, that'll work
Yeah.
great. you know, that elf image has a bit of like a light blue that kind of matches the border too. Um, Marty McFly's hat has a little bit of blue and maybe some yellow that kind of ties in with everything.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
it's very cool. I mean, you can see, I mean, the Kobe
yeah,
with the Marilyn Monroe behind it is very cool.
I've been having fun with those upper deck borders. Those come out of one of their hockey products.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, you see this one right here too with the MJ. I mean, it's just yeah, I mean, it's just really cool, fun stuff.
It is fun.
I
It's a lot of fun.
from that standpoint, you know, very, very interesting, very, very interesting. But like I was, one of the things I was, when I was, thinking about this and everything, I was thinking about the things to ask and everything is when you look at a card, is there, is there, an inspiration that you look at and you go, okay, hey, this is the card and I want to do it. Does a card just catch your eye that you go, ooh, this one would look pretty cool if I, did something special to this?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely certain, like action shots with the sports, especially that will just like kind of just catch my eye. I want to say jump out at me, and a lot of them, especially with basketball, it'll be because it already almost looks like the photographer kind of captured them almost like jumping off the card. So then to take an image like that Kobe one is a great example. There's a Giannis on my page too, where I also used the upper deck border and paired it with, I think, Warhol. And those types of images where you add them to a then three-dimensional like shadow box, like what I'm creating, it just, really makes it so it's popping out at you, creates this dimension that's just pretty incredible.
Yeah. This one was really cool. This Mike Tyson, Michael Jordan, Michael Jackson. I mean, that's just really cool, man.
Yeah, that one was a lot of fun to do. I've done a few variations of that one now. I'll use different images so it's not exactly the same.
Mm.
um, and I'll only do, if I do a variation like that, I'll only do one a year or something, maybe.
Yeah. So what like how long will it take you to do I mean, obviously time frames will be different, but what is what is the normal time frame to do a card? Obviously, more detailed stuff, maybe like that one where you're trying to make sure that the images fit together also, but like with the Bret Hart one, and then you're just trying to, you're picking out some other stuff. What's the normal time frame and all that kind of stuff?
um, it's tough, man. I get asked that, and it's like it's up to like 6 hours, maybe more sometimes. It might be like no less than three if I'm doing more of a simple card and everything goes like real smooth. Um, One of the cards I was doing tonight, or the card I was working on tonight, I made an uncharacteristic error and wound up slicing right through the border of the card after I'd already done all kinds of detail work, cutting it out, and you know that was frustrating.
I can
It,
imagine.
I wound up I had two copies of the card, so I had to start over. I wound up using the card, the image from the one where I messed the border up. But yeah, you encounter stuff like that. And then there's other things where I will end up saving time because I might cut up, making a card with a bunch of different images. I might cut up 10 different pieces to try to put into the card, and maybe only seven actually worked with what I was trying to do. So I've got a couple different containers where I'll put those little images and pieces that I've cut out and are basically ready to go.
Oh,
I throw them into a container, and I'll just like dump those out sometimes when I'm working on something else, you know, and I can try and incorporate them into something later on. So it's not a total waste of time or a loss.
that's very cool.
Yeah. And everything that I do is with trading cards. All those little images are from an actual trading card, which is where it's really hard to factor in time because there's all the time spent going to flea markets,
Oh
going to
yeah.
going to card shows, and going to my local shop and digging through boxes.
Yeah, yeah, that's why I figured out, like, man, just forget the actual doing, the actual sitting down, and now, okay, I'm going to create this piece of art because that's, basically what you're doing. It's like, hey, you're going to create, it's the preparation and everything you need, all the parts and pieces, if you want to call it that, to be able to then sit down, find that time, from that standpoint. Do you find it that like, you have to, at certain points, be like, okay, you know what? I need to, step away, take a little bit of a breath, get out of the way, and just kind of like, clear your
Yeah,
mind and everything, and then come back and go like, okay, I'm good to go. I can go forward now.
yeah, for sure. I get really frustrated sometimes too. If you make a mistake or might space out and cut something just like a little bit too much. Like tonight, actually, I wound up making an error, which I'll be able to fix. I'm just gonna have to do a little extra work
Right.
to cover up something that I messed up on. In the end, it'll look fine. No one will know but me.
Right.
It's just not what I set out to do exactly. The
Right.
end result's going to be different than what I had pictured. So, um,
Do
yeah,
like take a card and then draw out what you want it to look like, and then like, like do
I
like a
don't.
sketch?
No, and that's like the other part. I mean,
Oh wow.
I literally will just kind of like, I mean, I'll pull maybe like 10 different cards, like I was talking about earlier with the
Right.
Bret Hart, wanting to find a bunch of 80s cards that are going to work. And then I'll lay them down. I've got my image in front of me that is kind of like the subject that I'm going to build around. And then I'll have these other cards and I just lay them out and I'm just looking at the images and I kind of do it in my head, I guess. I never really thought about it. It's just how I do it.
Wow,
Um,
that's
I'll,
even that's very cool.
the ones that I think are going to work, I'll start cutting them out and then I can physically start trying to, kind of putting the card together without before it's like glued and stuff. And that's how I start figuring them out. And that's where I end up with a bunch of stuff that's all cut out. And like I mentioned, some of them don't end up always working because they don't fit the way I see them in my head, basically.
Yeah. So, Dusty put a question, and it was kind of, I was thinking, because I know there are some people who do custom cards, and and you answer if you want to, and they'll be like, well, hey, do whatever you want. Just don't ask me how I go ahead and do what I do. Like, I don't know if there's a secret sauce or something along those lines. You
Hmm.
know, uh, from that standpoint, I mean, it cannot.
Um,
Again, you know, someone looking at it, and I'm like, I look at it and go, like, how? Like even this one, Dom. Here's another, Ricky Henderson card. And that's, I mean, that's pretty. Again, it's all amazing to me. I looked at every single one of them. And I just look at them. And I'm like, damn. And then I go, wow. And then all of a sudden, I go to the next page, and I'm like, well, damn. And I'm like,
yeah,
damn again. Come on.
I appreciate
Um,
it, man.
you know, um, is there secret stuff that you guys in this industry do?
I think that like we all learn along the like our own little tips and things that work better than others along the way. But like I've never had anybody be like, "Yo, here's this. You need to do this," and it just like changed everything for me. Every But I'm also the type of person where I don't really ask. I'm not afraid to ask, but I want to figure it out on my own.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's just like something about that to me. Just putting in the work and trial and error and getting it done. Um, it To me the biggest things like I use a ruler. When I first started out, I did it all freehand, even like cutting out just like the long straight line that might be going down each side or
Yep.
whatever. I would do it all by hand, and at first I would, like was really taking pride in like, oh, I'm gonna do it all freehand, and like it didn't look bad, but it didn't really look great, and like I wanted to look great. And once I started using a ruler, that changed things for me. Um, and I can tell the difference usually when I look at cards, and like I've got buddies that make them, and they just make some of them just make them quick because they don't have the time, but they do it for fun, which is cool. But like you can definitely tell the difference
Right.
between no ruler and not, or and one. Um, I go through a lot of blades. I think that that's one of the secret tips that a lot of guys maybe aren't willing to share, or don't talk about a lot. Um, Changing the blade often makes a huge difference because that when the blade is fresh, it cuts, like as close to butter as you're going to get. And the more that's used, the duller it gets, the less precise and clean your cuts are going to be. Um, I also try to cut at an angle rather than just like flat. I cut with a bit of an angle to it so that when you're looking at the side of whatever might has been cut, you're not just seeing this real flat, like
Ah,
white spot.
very cool.
It eliminates that. And I also use the paint markers, and I touch a lot of the edges and things. It helps a lot. If I've cut an edge like the border, you paint those, and it helps to hide any flaws that are there also.
Yeah. Here's a question from Frank. Do you need to get any kind of copyright or anything like that from
No,
people?
no. So I mean, the stuff that I do is all one-on-ones, and I hand number them one-on-one. I sign them. There's nothing that they can do. If I were to start mass producing them, I would definitely run into trouble. But each card is a one-on-one. You can
Gotcha.
even, and I mean, I have done stuff too where they're one of 100, and even there, I guess it could be a lawsuit, but it hasn't happened. And there's artists that are much bigger than me that have done like Michael Jordan stuff that's
Yeah.
numbered out of 50. Jordan Brand's not bothering to use their lawyers to come after somebody because they sold a trading 50 copies of a trading card, basically.
Hello, Sean. Hello, Doc. Um, yes. So I mean, you have your website and everything's in the description, gang. So you can go to his IG, his website, his X Twitter X, whatever we call it,
Yeah,
or
I still call it Twitter too. I still call it Twitter. It'll
yeah.
always be Twitter.
So things are there and everything. Can people order a card? Could someone say, "Hey, could you make me a player
Yeah,
X card?"
I do take commissions. I don't do a whole lot of them. I'm like swamped right now. I also
Yeah.
do. I tend to do this thing where like I take on like a ton of work and put a lot of pressure on myself, and then I'm just like, oh crap. But I have to remind myself that that's what I asked for. I try to thrive in the chaos, but there's definitely moments of overwhelmingness. Um,
I can understand that.
yeah, you know,
I definitely can. I mean, yeah, because again, the more intricate the card, obviously, the longer it takes. You have that, you know, um, like for lack of better words, discovery period. Like you said, where you're saying, okay, I have, Bo Jackson. So okay, I want to do stuff. I'm doing a Bo Jackson football card. Maybe I want to throw some baseball layers in there. I'm doing a baseball Bo Jackson. I want to throw some football. So I could see how, that whole piece, kind of takes, time before you actually even sit down to go ahead and then, work the card. So I could see how, if you take that many requests, you could see the stuff building and building and building.
yeah, for sure. And then on top of the art, I've got a lot of other stuff going on too.
Right.
I've got we throw me and my I have a business partner, my friend Chris, and we throw trade card shows here in Maine. We have a 2-day show coming in June. It's the
That's
main
right.
main collector convention, June
Yep.
22nd and 23rd. We've got Jose Canseco coming, which we're excited because you don't really see names like Jose Canseco in Maine,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
which is part of the reason that we're doing it.
What
Um,
part of Maine?
the show's in Augusta, Maine, which I'm in the general area of Augusta. Yeah.
Yep. So the link to the main collectors convention is in the description, also the IG page, so you can go there and get all your information and everything. Matt, you should tell Theo maybe he can go ahead and get away and go to a card show, and he could we have a buddy in the community who's over there in Maine. He's over by the water and stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
uh, yeah, and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm gonna be at Culture Collision.
You coming back in September?
I am. Yep. I'll be at the National.
I
Uh,
was gonna ask you, going to national too? Yeah, well,
yeah, I'll be. I should be with Ludex in the VIP room doing a bunch of different things with artists.
very cool. Now, you guys as a group, do you collab also? Will you I know at Culture Collision you will buy yourself, you had your own table. You had a
Yeah,
good spot too. I like that.
I
But
did.
do you guys go ahead, and collab, and will you share spaces at times at some of these shows?
Yeah, absolutely. Although I haven't really had the opportunity to do so. Andy Friedman invited me to share his booth at the Philly show, which he was just at. I think that was like last weekend or something. And um, so, yeah, it's definitely a thing. I helped Ludex last year on set the Saturday of the National in Chicago. We had a bunch of artists in the room. I actually wound up kind of handing it off to Andy as far as the coordination of it went last year, and it
Uh-huh.
went great. We had, Ken Carl, Lauren Taylor, Yvonne Beslick, Chuck Stiles, Marley McFly. Um,
I've
trying to
heard
remember
I've heard
who
I've
else.
heard Marley McFly or anything. Have you done anything with any of the people that, did any of like the Tops Project 2020, those types of stuff?
Yeah. So Chuck Stiles is one of those. We had him in the VIP room last year. Chuck Chuck also just did the that LeBron James Tops Now. They sold like 84,000 copies of it. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh,
Was the,
yes, he did that?
yeah, that's Chuck Stiles. Me and
Oh,
Chuck are
wow.
I've been really fortunate to befriend like a good number of these artists just from going to shows and um I mean I'm 43 now. When I was younger, I spent many years working in nightclubs and going to nightclubs and partying and being around DJs and musicians and doing things and just learning how to network. And I
Right.
love the network. I love to be in a room full of people and talking. Um, so for whatever reason, it works out, and I've become friends with a lot of these people,
Yeah.
which is awesome, because there's a lot of good people, a lot of good artists, and it's kind of like anything else in the hobby where you figure out what works and what doesn't, right? um, and the good ones stick around. So I've got a good group of artists that I'm working with right now. I've been working on a collection of cards that are all signed by me as well as the other artists. So they're going to be dual signed and authenticated by Beckett.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, I already have Lauren Taylor done. All the artists that I just mentioned, they're all done. I just got cards from King Saladin, which I'm really excited about. He did Project 2020,
Yep.
or 70. He did one or both of those projects. F. Dot, who's a really, really
Oh,
big and well known.
I've heard of
Um,
him.
yep. I've just been talking to him and he's going to send me some cards. So the plan is to reveal all those cards at the National. I'm hoping to get all of them done. Half of them, all the ones that I already have done, are at Beckett right now. And I've got another group of them that I need to finish and send to them.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Pretty
that was
cool.
basically once I got Beckett to authenticate my autograph, I started thinking of like, okay, well, now I kind of have, I I kind of call it my superpower in a way because in the moment I'm the only one that has it going on. So what can I do that's really different and take advantage of this in the moment? And that's where I came up with the idea of all these cards that are signed by not just me, but also the other artists.
That's really cool. That's really cool. Is there? I mean, there's got to be like a, I don't know, somewhat of a competition when you see other one. Like I guess just that artist thing where you look and you go, "Wow, that's cool. Look what the type of stuff they did on that card. I gotta try that. I gotta see if I could go ahead and do something. Not necessarily the same card, but okay, he did this with this card. I'll bet you if I take this, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, is there kind of like a little bit of a one-upsmanship between you guys?
Yeah, big time. Big time. I don't know if there is so much. I kind of look at like there's different levels to it. Um, like I consider myself still kind of like underground, you know, um, as opposed to guys like the guys that we were just all talking about.
Right,
I consider them to be like in the big leagues. Like I'm still like in AAA trying to break my way up to the majors. You know what I mean? Um, so I think kind of more like in that underground space, there's more of that competitiveness where it's like very obvious. I'm sure that every time that Chuck Styles or Andy Friedman makes a piece of art, they're intending to make the best piece that they can,
right.
to that is going to blow everybody away. And I'm, everybody should approach their art that way to a degree. Um, but yeah, yeah, it can get chippy too. It can,
Really?
it can. Yeah, there's definitely. Um, I mean, there's just like to talk their crap,
Right.
and people that love drama and just like attract it, and are always stirring the pot. So there's kind of almost always something going on, it seems. I have weeded out a lot of that and blocked people, and just like I just stay away from that stuff because there's just no need for it. i'm
Right.
just I'm just here to make my art and have fun, and also collect cards, and do shows and create experiences, and you know make the best time for everyone, not just myself.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Does, you know, does this type of card art, um, does it lead could it lead to something like, I mean, I don't know, like, does it lead to, I mean, postcards, 8 by 10, 8 by, 11 photographs or anything I mean, does it, is that like, do you not that you see yourself doing that, but I mean, is that like stuff that's also, potentially there that you can go from cards to other types of art? And I know you said, you do designing of logos and all that kind of stuff, but with this type of thing of, you know,
Yeah,
image puzzling, if you want to call it, or something along those lines.
for sure. um I don't know if I can do it. I was gonna try and flip my camera around, but I don't think it's gonna work. But yeah, I've got like five show your slab, um five like big PSA style wall art cases from show your slabs
Oh, okay.
right here, um that are going to go to New York City to Cards and Coffee. I don't know if all of them are going to go there, but yeah, for sure. Um, I don't know if I have anything really handy, but if you look on my page, I did with Pather Plastics last year at the National. I had three of these 4 foot giant acrylic slabs with my art in them.
And Matt, for a Cubs fan, you're okay, but now you become a little bit of a jerk with a comment like that. I can't stand that team.
That's funny. The friggin' Braves. That's
on
funny.
on this channel, they are called the baseball team from Georgia.
That's
That's
awesome.
that's how much I dislike them.
That's awesome.
You know.
But yeah, I definitely have been doing wall art. I haven't done enough of it. I'm gonna start doing more of it, and trying to get it into shops like Card Vault here, and like, well, I say here in New England.
You know
In
what?
Boston, they have 3 different stores. So I should be putting some stuff in there. They said a few months ago that I could do it. It's just a matter of getting it done. I've got just always have so many pieces. I finally got these slabs from Corey, the Show Your Slabs, which like I'm really excited to have those. I just got to get some art into them and then start getting them around. I was doing the stuff with Pather, but they're in Toronto, and it's just
Oh,
moving acrylic around. It just became too much to try and figure out. Um, so I mean, I've been friends with Corey at Show Your Slabs for some time now. I actually brought my first larger pieces. They were maybe like 15. The artwork itself was probably like 15 inches or something
yep.
like that. I had those in Atlantic City, which was my first national, and those came from Corey at Show Your Slabs also.
Oh, very cool.
Yep.
Very cool. Did
One of
you
those one of those actually sold last fall, early winter to someone from Denmark. I had him at Cards and Coffee in New York City, and this guy bought it,
Oh, wow.
which it's the highest sale that I've had. It sold for 2,300.
God bless. Way to go.
Yeah, it took over a year to sell, but like it just goes to show, it's just you have to find the right consumer, you know.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it's art, right? So
Yeah,
not everybody is gonna look at, I mean, like for instance, Tommie here, he's a big Ricky Henderson fan. And I'm sure like if he was at a show and you were there and you had those Ricky Henderson cards, I mean, like he would gravitate towards those, right? I mean, you're talking about, you know, that type of stuff. I mean, you have people that are gonna, gravitate towards you. They see their player, they see something they like, they see, the wrestling, the baseball, the basketball, whatever it may be, and stuff like that. So it I mean, it's definitely, one of those things that, I could see how sometimes, certain pieces could take a little longer because you're looking for that one that catches that person's eye. And it's like, I got to have that,
yeah, for sure.
from that standpoint and everything.
Yeah,
What was um, so were you, did the main collectors convention kind of, was that like the first, your adventure into setting up at card shows, or you setting up at card shows before, you and Chris decided to do the main show?
I started doing the card art, and during COVID, I think my son heard about a card shop in Augusta that was doing a thing on like Sundays. There was a group of guys, and we just showed up to it one time and kept going, and that's where I met Chris. And I think that it was, I feel like I hadn't even started making card art yet. Like it was right around the same time I started making it, and I brought in some of my first pieces and sold them to those guys at that little shop. Me and Chris became friends. Chris was throwing a 1 day show, and I went to that. I never set up at it. I would just walk around just like I do at the National,
Right.
or other big shows typically. Um, and he wound up approaching me and asking me if I wanted to be business partners with him and do the card shows together and try to do a 2 day show, which is last year was our first 2 day show. I didn't even set up at the show because I mean, as a promoter, I have too many other
Oh,
responsibilities.
sure.
um, and Culture Collision was the first time that I was ever really set up at a show, to be honest.
Really?
I
Wow.
did set up at one of our 1 day shows. Like somebody canceled one day, and I had one of my buddies had an extra case. It was like this crappy wooden case. It was all dirty, and like I threw some cards in it, but I wouldn't really. I mean, if you want to count that, sure.
Right.
But I mean, Culture Collision, and the only reason Culture Collision came about was because they reached out to me, said that they were interested in having me there as an artist, and if I was willing to do some artwork, and we wound up coming to a deal where they gave me the booth, and I mean, and flew me down there, so I was going to be there. I might as well set up.
Heck yeah. Heck
And
yeah.
I thought it went well. I mean, I've been to enough card shows that I had already had a good idea of what I would want my area to look like. I ordered the pop-up banner, and I designed the banner and ordered that and had it shipped to Atlanta actually, so it was there waiting for me. Um, and I had the little spinny jewelry thing, which I think was cool. I was A lot of people really
Yep.
like that. Um, and it went well. I brought other cards. I created a lot of inventory. Actually made the most amount of cards that I've made in like a 2 week span ever. I think I made like, I want to making 14 or 15 cards in a couple weeks or
Right.
something, which I don't know if I'll do that again or not. It'll be a lot. It was a lot of cards, you know, um,
A lot of work.
a ton of work, a ton of work. And I still have, you know, a fair amount of them too, which is fine because having inventory isn't a bad thing for traveling to other shows and stuff.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
It's nice to sell stuff when stuff sells right away. It's always great. But, you know, as we were talking about earlier with art, it does take time. It's not everything is for everyone. So
Yeah.
patience is the key.
Yeah, like I said, you know, yeah, the location you had, I mean, it was real. I mean, yeah, I mean, it was good. The layout was good. Your setup was good. Everything. And Culture Collision is a different type of show. That was my I went last year and I went, now in February. It was the first, so it's only the second time I went. And when I went the first time in 23, it was Culture Collision card show, and I was like, okay, I didn't, all right, Culture Collision. I wasn't really, all right, whatever that means, fine, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and then you go there, and all of a sudden, it's like, you see the sneaker boots, and you see the people selling, soap shaped like baseballs and footballs and all other kinds of, stuff and everything. I was like, oh, now I get why it's called Culture Collision. I got it now. Now I'm getting it. Now I'm starting to understand a little bit more, you know. And
Yeah.
that's where, the beef started between Cibles and Santiago at first. I don't know if you heard about that and everything, but it was that,
Yeah. 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 The basketball
they
thing.
do that
I
basketball game
saw,
and
I
everything.
saw
So,
all that.
but I mean, it is a good show. I mean, it was a good show. Um, you know, I I think I think everybody there, the setups were good. Everything went well and stuff. You know, do you, as you do more of more, let's say, bigger or regional type shows, are you seeing more people, in your segment at showing up at shows, more card art people?
Mm, yes and no. I don't know. It's kind of hard to like in my region, not really. There's a couple guys that I see out from time to time. One of them in particular that I know goes to like regional shows pretty often. There's probably one or two that he does like frequently. I forget his full name, Samurai Soup or something like that. Samurai something. Um, and then this other guy, Final Cuts from the Boston area. I saw him at the Fenway show one time. Um, but in general, a lot of the guys aren't out and about. And I mean,
Really?
yeah, sometimes, I mean, hop on Instagram and will drop little thoughts in my stories and stuff. And that's one of the things I tell people like, if you want to succeed, you have to go to shows. Like, and that's why, like, I don't know, thinking of competition and stuff, sometimes I see guys that make great art that can compete with just about anybody, but they don't know how to market themselves. I don't see them at shows. I don't even see any posts on their page that show their face. A lot of these guys that's just how they operate.
Really?
Um, yeah, and the other thing is too, I'm sure that there's a lot of them maybe just don't even have the desire to do more with it, and it's just a hobby, you know. Um, for me, I recognized right away that I wanted it to be more than just a hobby because I've always had so many interests from, doing art, creating logos. I used to draw my own starter jackets and sneakers when I was a kid and stuff. So, I mean, it's always been something I've wanted to do as far as art goes. And I've always loved to collect, whether it was sports cards or comics, or even when I was a teenager and I stopped collecting baseball cards and I was listening to a lot of rap music and just buying CDs. I collected CDs, it was always something along the way. So just kind of a perfect storm for me. So I'm passionate about it. I'm definitely not going anywhere anytime soon. And if you're a card artist and you're watching this and you want to make it, you better be out there because I'm out there.
Yeah, no, I mean, but you're 100% correct, right? I mean, if you know, if you're not putting if you're not getting out there in some way, shape, or form, it's difficult to go ahead, and grow and and to continue to do, what you do and stuff, from that standpoint.
Yeah, you can't really put a monetary value on the networking that I do. It shows, and you can't really put a price on the value in a handshake and like that in-person smile and interaction.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of I think I know for a fact that there's a lot of people on Instagram that are making custom cards and stuff, and they're tagging Tops and they're tagging Panini and they're tagging Card Collector too, and they think that someone's going to share their video or watch their video and they're going to get an offer from Panini to make cards, and it's not going to happen like that.
Right.
It's just not, you
Right.
know. Like, um, I think that
Okay.
I think I was kind of that way in the beginning before I went to the National in Atlantic City. That was my first time going to a show outside of Maine. But I decided as that summer was approaching, um, the how competitive it was very clear to me that I had to make a move if I wanted to continue to not just be competitive, but find an edge, you know. And I did. I really haven't looked back since I went to Atlantic City. I met.
Yeah.
I decided it would be a good idea. There was a uh, not even a trade night. There was a little party that 137 and Card Talk and eBay threw, and DJ Ski was there, and Blake Jameson and Andy
Right.
Friedman. So I got to meet Ski as he was on his way out, and I hung out with Blake and Andy, and kind of hit it off with both of them at this party. Um, and now today, me and Andy are actually, I would say, pretty good friends, if not like very good friends. We talk every couple weeks, and are always looking for opportunities for one another.
That's very
So
cool.
yeah, I mean, and that's where I say that you got to get out there and make those interactions, make those connections, because people aren't going to. It's hard to get people to do favors for you that have never even met you. You know.
Yeah, and I mean, and although you're, you know, the other guys and girls that are doing what you're doing, although you are, your competitors, say, but you're not. I mean, but it's also your competitors, but you're also different because you don't create the same things, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, for sure.
like you're not. It's not like you're both trying to create a card. It's not like you're creating, like Tops is, Tops and Panini, direct competitors. They're both basically doing the same exact thing, and it's not. You can only do so much different. What you do, and what all people do is it's so different. I mean, it's like you could almost think like there's no way you being in Maine and I don't know, Mr. or Mrs. X being in San Diego, California, can sit down and both of you think of grabbing the 1986, Ricky Henderson card and going, oh man, we're going to do this, right? Without
Yeah,
ever like talking or anything like that. So, it's like, yes, you're competition because you're both trying to, sell, card art, but it's also, it's the you don't see it's hard to go ahead and have the same thing happen twice by 2 separate people. Like, I could see you creating the same card twice, right? I mean, because you have one there and you have the other one, right? Where someone would have to buy it from you and then or copy it. That's the only way somebody else would be able to do it without having that card or seeing that card in any way, shape, or form. So I think
Yeah.
from that standpoint, it's to your point about not getting out there, you would think more people would want to go ahead and network, would want to work together, collab a little bit more on things because there is enough difference in what you guys do as a whole,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
I should there are guys that are going out there. It just isn't enough of them, I don't think. Cuz from I mean there's got to be, I almost want to say there's hundreds of 'em. Almost every single day I feel like I come across somebody new on Instagram that's making their own cards. And so it's a very small portion of them, that are getting out there. You have guys like Kev's Cards, who's one of the best guys out there, makes really good stuff, and he goes to a lot of shows. Um, Card Killer, who's really good, and who I'm also really good friends with, goes to the bigger shows like the National. I see him at the National every year. Luke the Cardist does a lot of shows. LJ's Cards, he does a lot of shows. Um, and then there's other guys that I know do like their local shows somewhat frequently. Like there's a guy named Local Hits, and his stuff's awesome. So, but again, I don't think I can name maybe a dozen people that I know for sure are going to shows. And there's a tons more, So, and people do collaborate too. There's a lot of collaboration amongst, like the underground guys, especially. You do see quite a bit of that. Um, but not so much outside of just like, hey, let's make these cards together. I'll make a card and ship it to you. You ship it back, kind of deal. You know, I'm trying to set up a kind of like an official card artist like meetup kind of thing at the National. I don't, but again, I don't really know how many artists will be there, but it is really this. It's the Super Bowl of our industry. So if they're going to be anywhere, that should be the spot. And I do typically see, like last year, I must have seen like half a dozen of them. One of them, at least one of them, I'd never met before, which was cool. He came up to me and said that um, he had seen me on Instagram, and he gifted me a card that I think it was actually a Ryan Sandberg. He gifted it to me. Um, so I mean, that was really, really nice and awesome just to have somebody that saw me on Instagram and admires my work and made that card for me. So yeah. Oh no, my volume's gone, or I can't hear you.
That's because I hit the mute button
Okay,
by
there you
accident.
go. I thought it was my phone. I'm like, oh no.
No, Edward does, I've seen some of his stuff. He does more like, uh, sketch painting type, artwork and stuff
I
like
know that
that, and he makes
name. I
cards out of them.
I definitely know that name. I can't think of his work right off. There's so
Yeah.
many. I mean, there are so many artists that are incredibly talented. I come across new guys all the time, like this sketch artists, and so many people that paint. And I mean, what I do is cool, and I know I that some of the work I do and is just on its own different level. But when I see somebody that can paint, like Chuck Styles has been painting some stuff that like is almost like Renaissance type, like horses and like just this beautiful stuff. And I can't do that. I really admire that type of stuff. I love
Yeah.
to see it. It's just like, damn, I wish I could do that.
He does a lot of different subjects, stuff like that. I like the ones where you'll see people and they will take a card and then, embellish it by painting on it, and you're like, "Holy cow."
Yeah.
That I mean, that's pretty, that's pretty amazing too. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff out there, that people do that, to your point, because they kind of stay in the shadows, you don't really, get to see a lot of it.
Yeah. No, there is a lot. It's a great point. I mean, there's a lot of talent out there that just doesn't get seen because they maybe don't know how to shed the light on it, like you were saying.
Yeah, so he'll do paintings of famous photos or sports cards. Very cool. So do you go to National, you
Yep.
know, do you like go through the dollar bins? Are you going through the bins looking for cards to go ahead and to put into your not necessarily your collection, but your cards that are going to be, maybe bases for future stuff?
A little bit. I'm not gonna lie. It's actually almost kind of sad. I don't spend nearly as much time looking at cards as you would think I would at the National. It's really more running around and networking and doing stuff of that nature, trying to sell my cards and meet people that I've been kind of nurturing relationships with and
Right.
stuff, talking to, and trying to accomplish things with, and now I finally am in a room with them, so like that's the big focus. Last year I wound up finding some time one of the days. I probably spent like an hour digging, doing just that. Actually, there was this one guy. I'd walked by his table a few times, and he actually had like 3 or 4 tables of like alphabetically categorized non-sports cards, like all TV shows and movies, as far back as like the '60s or maybe even a little earlier.
Oh,
And yeah, I left with this stack
I was
from.
gonna say you got to go through that one for what you do.
Yeah, for sure. And I love to see that stuff, and like I do love to collect. So doing that digging and, going to, we go to flea markets. Sometimes me and the whole family will go to flea markets because I like to look at not just at the cards, but other stuff. Um, so it is a lot of time spent doing that, but it's definitely a labor of love, you
Yeah,
know. I'm kind of collecting this stuff, even though I'm going to cut it up.
yeah.
I'm actually still kind of like collecting it. It's like, oh, look at these Ninja Turtle cards. I remember having these turtle cards. These things are awesome. These would be great to cut up. I've just got all kinds of stuff like that. Um, Transformer cards. I've got
Like
some
that.
stuff that I bought that I was intending to cut up, where it's like I've had it for a little while now, and I'm like, am I really going to cut up this 1984 Optimus Prime Transformer card? Because this
Right.
thing's pretty sweet.
Yep.
I
So
always
are
tell
you a baseball guy, basketball guy, football? What?
I'm a nostal. I would say I'm a nostalgic guy, but if like we're gonna pin a sport, it's baseball is my focus. I primarily collect vintage. I do enjoy ripping. Like, we'll rip. I'll probably open a pack or two almost every week at least. Just like stopping in at the store or whatever. I'll grab them when I see them because they're fun. And I do collect Cubs. I'm not big on spending. I don't spend a ton of money like chasing prospects and stuff like that. I'll buy, like, I've got like a nice handful of Pete Crow Armstrongs that are like lower numbered that
Yep.
I've been able to snipe on eBay, like little like numbered out of 9 or numbered out of 10 type cards and out of
That's the only reason why I
99.
can't stand the Cubs for that one.
Yeah, PCA. Yeah. So yeah,
Javier Baez.
I really, oh, Javi, man, Javi. It's so sad to see what happened to him because he's one of my favorite Cubs ever. I don't know if there's been one player that was like so electric for that period where he was insane to watch, just so much fun. Um, but yeah, man. I mean, I grew up. My great uncle played baseball in the major leagues from 1955 to '63,
Oh wow.
um, and I think that's my first exposure to sports cards and having that connection to the sport. Baseball has always been my thing. He flew me to Florida for my 14th birthday and brought me to meet Ted. I've got photos of me sitting with Ted Williams.
Oh
I,
wow.
I still have the 2 baseball heroes cards that I had Ted sign when I met him. Um, I've got I have an extensive collection. My great uncle's name was Billy Klaus. So from 55 to 63, he played in the majors and he had 9 different tops in Bowman cards. One Bowman, 55, he's in the Bowman set. And then 56 to 63, he's in all the top sets.
Oh, very cool.
He also has a Salada coin, those little like plastic coin things that with the baseball players.
Yeah.
He has one of those. There's a top stamp with him on it. Post serial cards, the 1961 and 62 post serial. He
Yeah,
was
that's really cool.
in both of those sets. Um, I also collect, besides cards, I really collect anything to do with his career. So I collect autographed baseballs. I collect bats. I found his and purchased his original 1957 Red Sox road flannel.
Holy cow.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
awesome.
It's something, dude. It's really incredible. I've been looking for one of his bats for years. I still have not found a bat, but I had a guy message me a couple years ago. I think it's been like 3 years now. He messaged me and said, "I don't have your uncle's bat, but I have his jersey." And it was his uncle has an estate sale, like an estate auction business, and
Yeah.
had somehow come into it.
Oh, wow.
He's like, I've had it, and I had no intention of selling it, but when I saw your posts on Facebook, I knew that you'd enjoy it. It means so much more to you, and I wound up buying it. So that's really my passion.
That's very
Is
cool. That's
yeah,
awesome.
I didn't even know they were called Type 1 photographs, but I've been buying like original photos and stuff off eBay for years too. Um, I get some of them I'd like to get authenticated by PSA at some point. It's just putting that money into it, you know.
Yeah, that was, Merlin from California, Merlin and the Great Curator, they do and, they do a show, um, and Merlin does a bunch of Type 1 photographs.
Yeah, I actually reached out to the great curator, and he gave me a contact at PSA because I really want to start. Is it the registry?
Yes.
I think that they do it. I'd like to get it set up because I've been collecting one of every of his cards in a PSA slab already, and I want to get some of this other stuff slabbed. I'd love to start a registry so that the slab says the Billy Klaus collection and have it all under them, you know.
That'd be very cool.
Um, and they're the only ones that do cards and also do those little plastic coins,
Yep.
which was one of the reasons that I decided to go with PSA. One, because there's way more PSA slabs on the market, so it was a lot easier to collect his cards in those.
Right.
And also because I wanted the coins to match with the cards, you know.
Man, that's really cool. That's
Yeah,
awesome. That is
I,
that's really cool.
thanks, man. It is pretty awesome. I've never really neglected the fact or took it for granted that I have that connection, you know.
Yep.
Um, my best friend Steve grew up. He lived right next to my grandma in Illinois, and it was my aunt, my great aunt, who married Billy, and they would come to visit from time to time, and my buddy Steve would always have a couple cards that he would get, and he'd have my uncle sign them for him. So it was always special, even when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I can only imagine, man. I mean, and that's that's the stuff of the hobby that, you know, you don't hear a lot about today. So much stuff of the hobby that we hear about today is, "Hey, how much is this worth? What
Yeah,
can I get for this?" Right? It's so much of, the hobby where, a lot of the sentimental value and stuff, it's just, it's not there as much anymore.
yeah,
With those collections and all this other kind of stuff and everything, like I tell, people, you know, um, like I have a couple of Walter Payton rookie cards that I actually pulled back in, 1976. I opened up the pack.
that's
I
awesome.
didn't buy them or anything. So those cards have, they've only seen, one owner once they left that pack. It can't, and it was, it's been me, and they're what, you know, 50, almost 50 years old now, almost a 50-year-old card now.
Yeah, that's
You
awesome.
know? and stuff. So I mean, it's like, I think, that connection you get, is very different, than a lot of other people who got into the hobby now. A lot of people just got in the hobby now to, again, it's more of a, more people I think are investors than they are hobbyist collectors along those lines. But
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree.
teach their own. But the sad part is it takes, it does take guys like me and you and a bunch of the guys in the chat. It takes them, out of the market to be able to, get stuff that you used to get, from that standpoint and everything. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I love it. Especially collecting my uncle's stuff because it's at a point, like, speaking of like years, by the time this stuff is passed down to my kids, like, it's gonna be like 1955. It'll be like 100 years since that occurred. And
Yeah.
as I'm collecting, like, every once in a while, a new newspaper clipping pops up on eBay with my uncle from some obscure newspaper. um, I have an original ink drawing that I framed and put on the wall that I got. That is the original, all the original pencil and ink. You can see all the little strokes on it of this writing that was done for the Dallas Sun Journal in 1950 when he was in the minor leagues. And
Oh
it's
wow.
awesome. It's like 15 inches tall. It's really cool artwork, that I got off eBay, and it's like that type of stuff. Like, once it, like, ends up being put away wherever it ends up, or it's hard to imagine that things have just been discarded over the years,
Oh, I know.
so I'm really like capturing time and like saving up these moments and things and putting them all into like one collection that at some point can be viewed and like taken in, and people will be able to see and understand the story.
Yep.
So, so it's so much more than just money and even just collecting for me.
Oh
It's
yeah. Yeah.
there's
It's
definitely a lot of emotion that's tied into it, especially my uncle's stuff, because
Yep.
it's definitely a tribute, and it's kind of, I've come to realize recently that it's also a bit of a tribute just to like my whole childhood and like my family in general.
Yep, for sure. I mean, it's people don't realize, these little things like this that happen. And again, like Dom said, it's the stories like this that, you know, they don't get told as often as they should. We don't hear about them a lot and everything. Um, but it is what makes the hobby so special. When so many people, have that, um, have the connection, a different connection. Like, we have a uh, a very good friend of the family, who's been in the major leagues. His name is Michael Chavis. He was with Boston. He got drafted by Boston and got traded to Pittsburgh, stuff like that. And he's been here to this house. He is basically, hung out right behind where I am. He's hung out at the fire pit in our backyard and stuff like that. And my son is the type of thing where he's like, same thing. Like, he's like, I just want to have like every card of his. I want to go ahead, and he has on. I couldn't even tell you what the number is now of how many, but it's that emotional connection of actually knowing the person. So it's different. It's not just a piece of cardboard with a picture on it.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
more to it. It's not just an article in a newspaper. There's more to it. There's emotions invested in it and stuff like that. So it's awesome. That's the kind of stuff, you love to hear and everything. So um, that's great. I hope you're able to get every single thing that you can, of his and everything. That's awesome.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I just, over the last few weeks, I bought 1961 Washington Senators team signed baseball with him on it. And I don't have the year pinned down. I'll have to go through all the names on the ball, but it's like a '59 probably Orioles ball
Oh
with
wow.
my uncle just below Brooks Robinson, another team sign ball. I decided because I had already given to me by my grandmother. So it's funny because my grandma's sister married the ball player, but my grandma loved baseball.
Oh,
And so
wow.
she had some things, from Bill, like there was two team signed balls from the 50s with the Red Sox. And then my grandma had a ball from the Cardinals from the 40s from when she was a little girl and had gone to Wrigley. It was Stan Musial and Harry Walker and all these other players on it.
Yeah.
And I was told at a young age that when I was old enough that she had something in the attic for me, and that's what it wound up being was those baseballs. So I'm like, I have the 50 these like 55 to 58 Red Sox balls. He played with the Phillies, the Senators, and the Orioles. I'm like, I should try and get one ball for each team, right?
Yeah.
The collector in me, I'm like, oh, let's start another side quest.
Right.
I'm like, oh, I need to collect one of each team now. So I actually have one of every team now, except I just need a Phillies ball from 62 or 63, and I'll have one for each team.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I do have a 1953. I have a couple of the minor league team signed items too. I have a 53 Toledo Sox team signed. It's a team letterhead signed by the entire team. Um, and I've got a ball that's signed by like the 52 Braves or something like that.
Wow, those things have to be, I mean, they gotta be even more rare than the other stuff.
Extremely rare. Like that letterhead, I don't know if there'll be another. It's on the Toledo Sox, Toledo, Ohio minor league baseball team, 1953 team letterhead, also signed by the entire team.
Oh,
So
wow.
I don't know if there's another one out there. To be
That's
honest,
very cool.
I
Very,
haven't
very
I haven't
cool.
seen another one in my like. I've been actively really searching, focused on this for like 7 years or more now, like a little more, 7 to 10 years at the very most. And in that time, I've never seen another one.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's awesome, man. That is awesome.
yeah. The one
Well,
one thing that got away from me,
uh-oh.
the one thing that got away, I just did not have the money for it at the time. A 1947 Springfield, Illinois Cubs, the Cubs team signed ball, which was the first team that he got drafted by in Centralia. It was just single A, and there was a team signed ball, and I could have bought it, and I missed it. That's the one that got away.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because that would be the ultimate piece, something for him with the Cubs. Growing up as
Oh, yeah.
like a third, at least like third generation Cubs fan. That's like that would be really awesome. Besides the bat is still like my ultimate unicorn, but next to the bat would be something from the Cubs.
Oh, yeah, those, I mean, yeah, for sure. Those, I mean, definitely, especially, like you said, you being a lifelong Cubs fan and your uncle was with them, I mean, that's, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. I have found photos. There are really good photo. Oh, geez, my voice. There's really good photos of him with the Cubs team. But besides that, no luck yet.
Oh. Hey, you know, like, look, hey, you keep looking, you'll see, that stuff will pop up. That's the one thing, there's always something being found and something put on, being put on eBay all the time. It's just a matter of,
Yeah, I just
having it.
I just hope that, like, especially like the bat. My worry is that it's going to go to some random auction house, and there's so many auction houses now. Like, you, how do you even keep track or know? Like,
Yeah, like, yeah, you're right. I mean, how to, yeah,
there are
yeah,
that,
yeah.
that I've never even heard of that are like active and get used a lot. I mean, I'm sure that somebody that really knows all of them could probably name 10 to 20 easily. You know?
Oh, yeah, sure. I agree. Yeah, that, but, eh, you'll
Yeah.
find it.
Oh yeah.
You'll
For
find it. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and then it'll be like, you know, you'll have that aha moment again of yes, as you'll be a little kid in the candy store waiting for that damn thing to be delivered.
I talked to my cousin Nancy. and she remembered the family having a JFK signed baseball. Her dad was Billy, and that 61 Senators team, that was their inaugural season,
Yeah.
and JFK threw out the first pitch on opening day. And I actually found video from that day with Eisenhower and a bunch of players on the field, and they flashed to my uncle for like a moment in that video,
Oh wow.
which is really cool. And I was talking to her recently, back and forth on Facebook, and she said, "Yeah, I remember us having a ball signed by JFK, but I don't remember whatever happened to it." I was like, "That's a shame."
Yeah.
Worth like a $30,000 baseball, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
But yeah, it's wild how things like that just get lost, misplaced. Nobody knows what happened to it over the years. And stuff that like they didn't even save stuff back then. Really, they didn't know like that a bat anybody would care so much.
Yep.
A lot of players back then would walk out of the clubhouse and just give them to kids that were out on the street and stuff.
Oh yeah. My dad, you know, my dad was born in, 1940, and when when I was growing up, um what it was funny, it wasn't really even like him who got me, into cards or anything. Um just started collecting, I don't know, with just some of my, friends and stuff. And, as we started to talk more about it and everything, and you got to figure for crying out loud, in the 70s, the Mickey Mantle card was, it was still like the card, but it was nowhere. It doesn't have the status that it has, now and everything. And he'd be like, "Oh yeah, I remember I had a shoebox in grandma and grandpa's basement with all kinds of baseball cards." It's like, "Excuse me? What?"
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And he goes, "Mickey Mantle." He goes, "Oh yeah." He goes, "I don't know how, he goes, we used to put them in our bicycle to go ahead, in the spokes and make the motorcycle noise." And I'm like, I I appreciate that story, but I just
yeah,
don't want to hear those
you,
stories anymore.
you should have kept that to yourself, Dad.
I
My mine has a similar. My dad has a similar story in that he had his card still, and in one of their moves, there was a specific move that he remembered that they were going to a new house and something happened, and he never saw his cards again. So
Yeah.
yeah, I
And my
wonder.
dad was a Yankee fan, so that's who he collected.
No, no kidding.
Yeah.
I'll try to show you real quick here, best I can. Some of my setup out here. So here's that artwork I told you about.
Wow. That is freaking awesome. That is so cool.
So here's the
Oh,
jersey.
wow. That's the jersey?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, you can see the stitching and everything.
Oh, man. That is incredible. Man, that's congratulations on forgetting that stuff, Timing. That's freaking awesome.
Thanks, man. Like, here's him and Ted.
Ugh, that's just crazy.
There's the letterhead I was telling you about.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I can't imagine that there's a lot of those around.
Nah, and some of these guys too, like Sam Jethro. I think he might have been a. There's a couple guys that were Negro League players.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
Yep. And some of my uncle played with a lot of the like very first Negro players in the minors and stuff.
Yeah, it would have been right around that time. Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
That's true. Well, that's awesome, man. That's awesome, man. Hey, we've been going for a long time. I
We
appreciate you
have.
coming
I
on.
told you I had a lot. I told you I had plenty to say.
And I told you that I would, me too. That when I started the show with Anthony Pittsburgh, he was on earlier. He got off, and he took a job in the hobby, and they asked him to, say, "Hey, you talk about you talk about stuff about the hobby. We are involved in the hobby." They thought, there could be conflict of interest,
Gotcha.
so he had to, basically, not do the show anymore. Um, but when we started out, it was, look, hey, hey, we'll go on for an hour and that'll be cool and everything. And so this is episode number 65 that we've done 65 weeks in a row. We haven't missed one. And
Sweet.
we've never gone an hour. We've never even come close to just an hour,
That's awesome. That's
you know.
awesome.
But
Let's
I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you making the time and talking and everything. Um, love the stuff that you do and everything. Looking forward to seeing you when when you come back to Atlanta and stuff. I'm looking forward to going ahead and and coming and seeing what you bring and hanging out at your booth for a little while if you'll let me hang out with you for a little bit.
Yeah, of course, man. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It'll be good to see you again. I'm gonna
Excellent.
see you in Cleveland.
Oh yeah, that's true. I see you in
Yeah.
Cleveland before then. That's right. I forgot. I'm going to the Nationals too.
Cool. Yeah, I'll definitely be in. I'll be doing some different things, and I'll definitely be in the VIP room. Just keep an eye out on my Instagram, and I'm sure I'll have some type of schedule up when the time comes.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. 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 Yeah, because some of the guys that were in the chat will be there too, so I'm sure, they wouldn't mind. They'd love to go ahead and meet you also. We plan on hanging out. There's a couple of guys, especially Matty Ice. I know, he's looking to go ahead and come and everything, so,
Awesome.
it'll be good to go ahead and meet up and everything, so, hey, everybody, thanks a lot. Don't forget, all his information is below. Check him out. Great work. If you're in Maine, hit up that show. I'm sure the show is awesome, 2-day show. Um Again, Tommy, any last words, before we close up shop here?
No, not really. Other than thank you for having me on. Thank you to everybody that listened. And if you have any questions, if you want a commission or whatever it might be, feel free to reach out anytime. And if you see me at a show, please come up and say hi. That's why I'm there to meet everybody and have fun. So I look
Cool.
forward to seeing you guys out there.
Thanks a lot, everybody. See you guys next week.
Take care.